All right, Al. So in this presentation, I want to talk to you a little bit about the presentation side of your public speaking. Um, so in this, uh, okay. So in the presentation side of things, uh, one of the key aspects that we need to think about is language use, whether it's unbiased, clear, and whether it has verbal or not, verbal fillers or vocalics in it. So unbiased refers to language that is not interpreted by others to mean different things than what you mean by it. Okay. So let's sort of unpack that a little bit. What that means is that if, say, Black Lives Matter and All Lives Matter are thrown around as words, right, as phrases, I think we could probably all agree that each of those is true, right? That in an unbiased way, that each of those statements is true. All lives matter and Black Lives Matter. But we all know that in our modern political context, that's not the case. Those two phrases define opposing sides of the political spectrum in the US at this point in time. Okay, so if we use either one of those words, that's a biased language, right? Because we know that it's pushing one side or the other and that it has different meanings across groups. So what we want to try to do with our language use in these academic presentations, right? And that's key, that academic presentation boundary, is use language that is universally understood. Or if we use words that could be confused, uh, all lives matter, say, Black Lives Matter, that we go to great pains to explain what they mean. Now, in truth, that was a bad example because no matter how you explain all lives matter or Black Lives Matter right now, it's going to cause political division and it's not going to be unbiased. There's no way right now in our political uh, melange for those phrases to be used in an unbiased way. So that means there's some language that jargon that might have different meaning across different groups that you can explain. And there's other language that no matter what you explain is going to cause division and be understood differently across an academic audience. And so that latter group has to be avoided. The first group has to be explained. Okay. Second is the clarity of your presentation. That actually is referring to like mumbling, good grammar, that kind of thing. Is it easy to understand the words you're saying? That'll come up again in a minute here when we talk about videography and sound. But it means essentially is the language you're using understandable to your audience? Okay, the last one is no verbal fillers or vocalics. The last one we're going to be working on for this first speech anyways. Verbal fillers are words like, right, sometimes so, or and, that people use when they're not sure what to say or they're transitioning between things to say, but there's some dead time. So they'll use words like or right to fill that dead time. They're not really expecting answers or any kind of response from the audience. It's just a filler. It has no real meaning. When you use the word right at the end of something like, you're all with me, right? That right at the end there is not important to what you just said. Okay. Vocalics are the same thing, but they're just, they're not full words. Uhs and ums are the key ones there. So those are the key things with language to look out for, or language use to look out for. I just add that one thing that's not on this list with language use is diversity of words, trying not to use so or and to go between main points over and over is helpful. It keeps your audience interested. It keeps people engaged and listening to what you want to say. Okay, videography. This would be normally in an in-person public speaking setting. This would be the nonverbals. And what this is just what's around you in your videography, as well as how you're taking the capturing the image, and whether or not it distracts from your content. Okay, it should not. You do not want anything that the audience sees to distract from what you're trying to get the audience to feel or understand. So simple backgrounds. Or if they're not simple, they relate to the context of the speech. An example would be mountain biking. If you're presenting about mountain biking, like I might use that as a part of my reflection in your first assignment here. There's a vocalic filler. I might use a trail in the background. So a shot just like this, but instead of this picture frame back here, there would be a trail. I'd be on location, right? It's related to the context. So it's not simple, but it's at least related, so it lets people know or keeps people engaged in the story I'm telling. The other thing then is like the camera work. Is it steady? It should be steady. Your camera shouldn't be moving. If it shouldn't be doing that, that's really not a good thing. Probably made you uncomfortable just there when I did it. So that's not so important now because I'm using my computer filming it. But if I was filming with my my phone, then that might be something I'd want to think about. Is there a way to set my camera down, my phone down, so that I'm not wiggling it around? And then the last thing there with videography is to make sure that your microphone is picking up your sounds. You might hear that I'm outside in a little metal roof shed and that there's some rain pinging on the roof. So the question is that going to be distracting to you or not? If it's not distracting and you can hear my words, no problem. If it is, then maybe I should fix it. Okay, so that's about it with videography. And so I'll talk to you all later.